The tension that has held your spine rigid since the whispering crags finally snaps, replaced by a profound, heavy exhaustion. You take 2 slow steps forward, closing the small gap between you and Yosef. Without a word, you lean into him, letting your forehead sink against the firm muscle of his shoulder. The new linen of his tunic is soft against your skin, and the scent of cedar wood and faint, lingering spice from his skin is the first truly peaceful thing you have felt in days.
Wyndra.
His voice is a mere vibration against your temple. For a heartbeat, he remains still, as if afraid that moving might break the spell. Then, his arms rise slowly, encircling you in a steady, protective embrace. One hand rests flat against the small of your back, while the other cradles the back of your head, drawing you deeper into his warmth. You feel his chin rest atop your hair, his breath hitching slightly before settling into a deep, rhythmic sigh.
Just for a minute. No crowns, no smiths, no duke. Just the silence.
I have the silence right here. I'm not letting go until you're ready to face the mountain again.
He holds you with a quiet ferocity, as if he could shield you from the very weight of your destiny. The crackle of the hearth is the only sound in the room, a domestic comfort that feels like a dream after the howling winds of the high spire. You feel the tension leave your shoulders, your hands coming up to clutch the fabric of his tunic. The firelight flickers against the stone walls, casting your joined shadows long across the room. Yosef pulls back just an inch, his hands sliding to your cheeks, forcing you to look up into the emerald depths of his eyes. The playfulness is gone, replaced by a raw, naked honesty that makes your pulse quicken for an entirely different reason than battle. The firelight dances in Yosef's eyes as you close the final gap, your hands sliding up his chest to tangle in the hair at the nape of his neck. When your lips finally meet his, the world outside the barracks, the grinding gears, the hissing steam, and the looming threat of the Duke simply ceases to exist. It is a kiss born of shared adrenaline and days of unspoken tension, tasting of mountain air, and the sudden, fierce heat of the hearth. Yosef lets out a low, ragged sound against your mouth, his hands tightening at your waist as he pulls you flush against him. The linen of your new tunics is a thin barrier between the frantic thrumming of your hearts. He kisses you with a desperate sort of reverence, as if he's trying to memorize the very soul of the woman beneath the crown.
Wyndra, I have wanted to do that since the first night we fled the capital.
He pulls back just enough to rest his forehead against yours, his eyes half closed, and his breath coming in short, uneven hitches. His thumbs trace the line of your jaw, his touch light as a feather, yet grounding you more than any stone floor ever could.
You should have said something. I thought you were too busy being a poet to notice the woman standing right in front of you.
I noticed every step, every choice. I noticed. I just didn't think a queen would have room for a wanderer's heart.
The fire crackles, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney. For a long moment, you simply exist in each other's space, the looming council meeting at dawn feeling like a problem for a different lifetime. Yosef's hands slide from your face to your shoulders, his gaze dropping to your lips again before he looks toward the heavy furs of the bed. The air in the room is thick, with an invitation that has nothing to do with war or politics. You gently untangle your fingers from the hair at his neck, the warmth of the kiss still tingling on your lips. You step back just an inch, though the magnetic pull of his presence remains. You offer him a lingering, soft smile, one that isn't for a queen or a commander, but for the man who has become your shadow and your strength.
We should rest. Dawn will come quickly, and I need my best advisor at his sharpest if we're to convince Hagar's captains.
Yusef lets out a long, slow breath, his hands reluctantly sliding from your waist. He looks as though he might protest for a heartbeat, but then he nods, a look of profound respect tempering the heat in his green eyes. He takes your hand one last time, pressing a lingering kiss to the center of your palm.
As you command, my lady. Though I suspect advisor is a title I shall have to work hard to deserve after such a distraction.
He walks to the door of your quarters, pausing at the threshold. The orange glow of the hallway torches silhouettes his lean frame.
Rest well, Wyndra. I'll be just across the hall. If the mountains so much as sighs too loudly, I'll be at your side.
He closes the heavy oak door with a soft click. You are left alone with the crackling fire and the weight of the coming day. You move to the window, a narrow slit carved into the rock, and look out. Below, the great forge is still a hive of activity, the rhythmic pounding of the hammers acting as the heartbeat of the mountain. Above, the stars are sharp and cold. You realize that, for the first time since the fall of Oralia, you aren't just running. You are preparing to strike back. The room is quiet, the bed covered in thick, warm furs that promise the first real sleep you've had in weeks. However, the maps Cora left on the table are illuminated by the dying firelight, showing the Duke's supply lines through the sunken marshes and the Iron Peak's hidden tunnels. You could collapse into sleep, or you could spend these final hours of darkness honing the plan that will determine the fate of the resistance. The allure of the heavy furs is strong, but the weight of leadership is stronger. You turn away from the bed and move toward the low wooden table where Cora left the vellum maps. The flickering hearth fire casts long, dancing shadows across the topographical lines, making the jagged peaks and stagnant pools of the shattered plains seem to writhe in the dim light. You trace a finger over the sunken marshes, a vast expanse of green-inked rot situated just south of the Iron Peaks. The maps are detailed, marked with the scribbled notes of scouts who likely didn't survive to see their work finished. You note the narrow limestone ridges that offer the only solid footing through the mire, and the regions marked with warning runes, territory claimed by the more aggressive lizard folk tribes.
The lower vents are here, which means the Duke's blockade is squeezing the life out of the forge from the underside. If we can't get those shards, the sentinels are just expensive paperweights.
A soft knock at the door precedes it opening. Yosef stands there, having apparently been unable to find sleep himself. He has discarded his heavier robe, wearing only the dark linen tunic you saw earlier. He carries 2 steaming mugs of bitter mountain tea.
I had a feeling the maps would win out over the blankets. You always were one for strategy over comfort, Wyndra.
He sets a mug down beside your hand, the scent of dried herbs cutting through the acrid smell of the forge. He leans over the table, his shoulder brushing yours as he examines the map.
Look here at the Blackwater Basin. If the Duke is smart, and he is, he'll have placed his primary camp on this elevation.
It overlooks the only path the shard runners use.
The two of you spend hours in the flickering light, cross-referencing Cora's maps with your own knowledge of the Duke's military formations. By the time the first hint of gray light filters through the window slit, you have a rough plan, but it is a desperate one. The High Smith's captains will expect a strategy that minimizes their losses, but the marshes demand a sacrifice of either time or blood. The tea has grown cold in your mug, and the fire in the hearth has dwindled to a bed of glowing embers. Outside, the rhythmic pounding of the forge has shifted in tempo, signaling the start of the morning shift. You roll up the vellum maps, the dry parchment crinkling under your fingers.
It's time. Let's take this plan to the council and see if they have the stomach for it.
Yosef straightens, smoothing the front of his dark tunic. The fatigue in his eyes is overwritten by a sharp, focused glint. He offers a quick, elegant bow.
Then I shall be your shadow and your shield, Wyndra. Let us show these mountain lords what the crown of Aurelia is truly made of.
You descend the stone stairs, the air growing hotter and heavier with every step. The central platform of the forge, is no longer a site of solitary labor. Several armored figures stand around a massive iron table, their faces grim and soot-stained. High Smith Hager stands at the head, his silver beard catching the orange glow of the lava rivers. Cora is beside him, checking the pressure gauges on a nearby steam pipe.
The sun hasn't even touched the peaks and you're already here. Hope you brought more than just high hopes, Princess.
Hager looks up, his eyes like cooling embers. He slams a heavy fist onto the iron table, silencing the low murmurs of his captains.
The girl says she has a plan. Let's hear it. The Duke's scouts are already pushing into the lower tunnels.
We're running out of time, and we're running out of power.
You step up to the iron table, unrolling the maps of the sunken marshes before the gathered leaders. All eyes are on you, some skeptical, some desperate. You explain the high-risk maneuver to bypass the blockade by utilizing the volatile thermal vents, a path that could lead to a swift victory or a watery grave. The iron table vibrates with the distant, rhythmic thumping of the forge's great pistons. You lean forward, pressing your palms against the cold metal, your gaze fixed solely on the High Smith. The captains shift uncomfortably, their heavy armor clinking, but you do not blink.
This plan only works if the Iron Sentinels are ready to move the moment we return with the shards. I am risking my life and the lives of my companions in the rot of the marshes. Can you guarantee your machines will be ready to strike, Hagar, or are we chasing ghosts?
Hager's bushy silver eyebrows knit together, and he leans his massive weight over the table, meeting your challenge. The heat from his proximity is like standing before an open furnace.
You doubt the blood of the mountain.
If you bring back the aether shards, my sentinels will walk through the Duke's walls like they're made of wet parchment.
He's right. I've already got the chassis prepped. We just need the spark. You get us the shards, and I'll have the Iron Sentinel leading the charge before you've even washed the swamp mud off your boots.
Yusef steps up beside you, his hand resting briefly on the hilt of his blade, a silent testament to his readiness.
Then the terms are set. We secure the supply, and you provide the hammer to crush the blockade.
Hager grunts, nodding slowly. He reaches into a pouch at his belt and pulls out a heavy, brass-cased compass, sliding it across the iron table toward you.
Take this. It's tuned to the resonance of the shards. It'll lead you to the shipment, assuming the lizard folk haven't smashed them to bits yet.
You pick up the brass compass. It feels warm in your hand, vibrating with a faint, magical hum. The council of captains begins to disperse to their stations, leaving you, Yosef, and Cora at the table. The weight of the mission settles onto your shoulders, a journey into the most treacherous terrain in the Shattered Plains. The brass compass hums against your palm, a steady vibration that feels like a second heartbeat. You turn your head toward Yosef, the orange glow of the great forge highlighting the sharp, handsome angles of his face. Despite the soot, the heat, and the impossible odds Hagar has just laid out, you find yourself smiling.
Ready for another adventure, poet? It's a bit wetter than the High Spire, but I hear the sunken marshes have a certain charm.
Yosef lets out a short, soft laugh, his eyes brightening with a mix of relief and renewed devotion. He adjusts the strap of his travel pack, stepping closer until his shoulder brushes yours.
As long as you are the one leading the way, Wyndra, I would follow you into the abyss itself. Though I may have to write a very long, very pointed poem about the smell of swamp gas when we return.
Cora snorts, crossing her arms over her grease-stained apron. She looks between the two of you with a smirk that suggests she's seen this kind of tension many times before, even in the middle of a war zone.
If you're done making eyes at each other, I've got something that might keep you from sinking into the muck. Follow me to the lift.
Unless you'd rather walk down 5,000 stairs.
Hagar returns to his anvil, the first massive strike of his hammer echoing through the chamber like a signal fire. You follow Cora across the vibrating floor of the great forge, heading toward a rusted iron cage suspended by massive, grease-slicked chains. The lift groans as the three of you step inside. Cora pulls a heavy lever, and with a jarring lurch, you begin to descend into the darkness beneath the mountain. As the lift plunges downward, the air begins to change, the dry heat of the forge replaced by a thick, cloying humidity that smells of ancient rot and stagnant water. Cora leans against the iron bars, her expression turning serious as the light of the forge fades above you.